I'm with Abdurahman Alrabah, and he is in Kuwait. And I met Abdurahman when I was running a workshop in Kuwait, oh, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, to help local entrepreneurs launch or move their projects forward. And at that time, Abdurahman was running a chain of donut shops, gourmet donut shops. And the thing that inspired me from him was the donuts. He brought donuts to the workshop and it was like, oh my God, these are the best donuts I've ever had. Now, his business has changed many times since then, but I'm here to talk to him about those people that inspired him along the way, mentorship, and what allowed him to make those pivots in a confident and comfortable way. Good morning, good afternoon, and where you are, good evening. How are you doing?
Good morning, Stephen. Thank you for the introduction. Appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure to meet you 4 years ago. And it's been a pleasure again to meet you now. I'm very happy for this interview and I'm willing to answer your questions.
So I think the most important thing is, I know as you talk with me, you're very much independent learner. You love to learn on your own. When you need something, you'll find a book or whatever, maybe watch, a YouTube channel, whatever it is. But can you tell me about, how you've been mentored over the years? Can you think of times when someone has coached you or mentored you and it's positive or negative? Can you give us some examples of that?
Sure. First of all, as an engineer, I started, I quit my job. I opened up a business in food and beverage, specifically in donuts, thinking that I can do it all by myself. And then after a year, I said, this cannot be going to the right direction. So I have to sit with someone that has much more experience than I am. So I had to sit with a few people that are, experienced in the food and beverage sector that have 10+ year experience. The hour or two that you spend with them advising you would save you a lot of times studying a topic, executing a different, let's say, a marketing campaign or expansion. So I had to decide on one person that I really trust, which saved me a lot of time with his advices.
And who was that? And how did you find them?
He was actually a relative of mine. I knew that he has one of the biggest burger chains in the Middle East, specifically in the GCC countries, as he's one of the pioneers of the burger shops, specifically sliders. I had to sit down about a case study about an issue that I had, and I was trying to seek his advice about it and see what is his opinion, because I was thinking about two things to do, and I was a little bit hesitant what to go forward with.
And this was a relative, but was there something specific about the way he spoke with you that helped you move things along one way or the other, even if you disagreed?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I thought that because I was going to expand one of our brands in the company, and I was showing him the all of the data, all of the plans that we were doing. And also I had another plan that I wasn't really convinced of, but he was firm that I should go with the other plan, is because that I was emotionally attached to the first plan. That's what he got me, what was the highlight about it, is that I shouldn't be too emotionally attached to a plan where I live with denial and forget the facts. The facts that if I go with the plan one, it wouldn't be feasibly, it wouldn't be feasible for me to, grow and, approach a certain target. But if I would go with plan B, which I was hesitant to do it, it would save me a lot of money and it's less risk. So today I thank him for this advice, because if I went with plan A, I was emotionally attached to, I wouldn't be in this situation that I
It's
am right now.
interesting. You're an engineer, right? So you think like the numbers, your brain is about numbers and formulas, and you were gravitating towards an emotional connection to an idea, right? That was a very interesting way of it where someone who's
Yeah,
emotional, no knowledge of data will like say, yeah, whatever, this is a better idea.
I had my data, like I had my data that was there that fits my emotional demand. Like, because I thought later on that I overanalyze things. I shouldn't be thinking this way because analysis is analysis, but sometimes, you have to keep it simple. And the way that he was thinking, it showed me that, someone is, just thinking simply, and he's making things less complicated, just for the sake of moving on. I was hesitant that I'm taking time to do something that's really, I thought complexity is required, where simplicity and doing will require change, because when you do, um, change will happen, and then you will figure out, you will get more data. uh, doing the second plan was much easier than the first one, and it's less risky and will cost me less money.
So this can you take us to the any moment in a conversation that you remember with him that, did he ask for data? Did he ask you questions? Did he tell you answers? Like, what was the nature of, if you think about over the years that you work with him, what
Mhm.
was it, the nature of the actual conversations you had with him? You said he looked at the data and said, you're making the wrong decision here, but what were they like? Were they
Mhm.
emotional? Were they cold? Were they warm? Like, what was it feeling like?
Um, it was pretty much, questions related to product, mainly, because we were really focused on the product and what are we trying to deliver. Um, I was over analyzing things, and he simply, um, figured it out, in seconds. I thought that I needed, let's say, just for the sake of simplicity, I needed these amount of, team, this amount of team to execute this amount of product. He said you could do it with only one person. You could do it with only this. So he gave me like a shortcut on how to do things in a different way. Hence, it will give me the same result. Um, so that really inspired me, because I always think of how successful people became successful, but I, I figured out that you do not have to do what successful people are doing. You have to do what successful people are doing before they became successful.
That's a great
You
point.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. So those people, some people get deceived by success, and think that they have to implement these systems. I need to have the right people at the right place. This is good in saying it, but technically, as a startup, I used to be the accountant, I used to be the chef, the operations, everything. I know it's not sustainable, but I could I could read people's mind whenever, whatever sector they are. So the uncertainty that I've been to the first year, not seeking a mentor, have taught me how to deal with people from different segments. Um, so I know if a chef is a chef. I know if like a guy who has an operations background, or so, there is negatives of doing everything by yourself, but at some point, you also have to understand what to delegate and who to delegate it for. Because I was thinking that I need these people that cost me a lot of money, but as a startup, it's not worth it. It's really high risk to do all of this. Only if you're sitting in a huge amount of cash.
Yeah.
That's something else.
So you've made a ton of pivots since we met, and I remember when we met, you had a chain of 4 or 5 I think it was mall-based donut shops, and then you no longer have the donut shop. So
Yeah.
how that and we could talk about the pivot in a bit, but I'm really interested in the decision point. And was anyone helping you in that conversation? And it could
Yeah.
be a long-term mentor or other people that you relied on. Like, how did you decide that? That's got to be like a little scary. Like, okay, I'm done with donut shops. I'm doing something else. Like, how do you make that decision, and who helped you in that conversation?
So, I started by myself. I thought that, we needed a proper donut shop in Kuwait. And I think this is a big gap in the Kuwaiti market. So I said, why not? What risk do I have? I started with less planning, and this is the biggest issue. That you come from an engineering, perspective. You think that you're good at your position or your field. That means you know everything else, which actually explained my failure the first 2 years. I had to apply for a loan, and I thought that I have to expand very quickly and very aggressively. And I partnered up with a friend of mine, which is exactly like me, 100% engineer, and same mentality. And, we just have to spend the money and let's see what happens. You know, um, this thing didn't turn out to be very good, quickly bad. We
He was
had to
like
make another
you. He was too much like you. Is that what it was?
too much like me, too much agreement, similarity. We had the same vision, but I thought that it's not a, every, you see a lot of documentaries on YouTube or on Instagram. They inspire people about the vision. They're over exaggerating about the vision, but you have to combine the vision, the mission, and all of these inspirational things with the financial aspects. At the end of the day, you have to make money, but you don't have to fully focus on money and forget the vision, and not fully focus on vision and forget the money. So that at some point they have to be balanced. The balance was not there. We were so visionary, so much, and to the point where because none of us had a finance background. So I said, halfway through the expansion, this is not going to turn out to be really, really something successful. So why don't we reconsider? After just 6 months, and then we had to sit with, few financial advisors, and that suggested that we can make another feasibility study just to study our business again, inside out, which they did. And they're well respected firms. So we also have to spend. Our mistakes is not cheap; it's expensive. So we have to spend on that as well. So because we said after this pivot, it has to be firm. So we slightly changed. Actually, we changed internally, also management side. I still have my partner, but we thought the best thing to do is to have a partner with financial background. So I still kept to be as a CEO, and I have a partner that is a CFO that's has a 5+ year experience in finance, corporate banking, and finance background, and also the decision maker when it comes to the spending. So at that time we had less money, but at least we were surviving. So the mistake cost us 1.5 years of closing all of the shops that we used to have. So until back in November 2019, we closed our last shop, which was our first shop initially. So part of that plan was also the mentor. That, as I told you, plan A was expansion, plan B was focus on one thing. And he said, just focus on one thing, which is your central kitchen.
Yeah.
And then I thought of this, and then I said, Kuwait is small, and doesn't need all of these shops. So why not focus on e-commerce, which is completely different than my initial plan.
Yeah. So that,
Yeah.
and the advice came to you from this mentor who said, that's where you need to go. Is that what you're saying?
The mentor gave me the inspiration. The finance people gave me the financial results about what to do. So combining his advice and the vision, and also part of it was also financial driven advices, along with the new feasibility study, gave me the decision to drop down the retail shops, and the economy was not going into the right direction. The oil prices been going down. That means less jobs offered by the government. As you know, more than 80%, I'm not sure about this statistically, but on a point of more than 80% of people are working in the government in Kuwait. If the oil prices are low, that means there are less jobs. That means there's less trade because there are less salaries. So I will be affected. And hence my numbers also got affected. So I was forecasting something bad that might happen, which did this year, 2020. But 2018, 2019, I pretty much 75% of it was closing shops.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
these transitions that you made, I mean, when I'm hearing from you is sometimes you had this ongoing mentor, and sometimes you need to reach out to people who have specific skills,
Mm-hmm.
who are coaches, mentors, consultants, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when your general mentor is not enough and you need to reach out to sort of more specialists in a field? Is that something that you did, or he said, you really need to talk to someone who knows about finance, or how did you make that decision?
I would ask around. Basically, I would see if this person is has a success track record. I usually study the mentor before approaching him, because I don't want to go to a mentor that I don't buy his vision on whatever he's doing. Because let's say, for example, if I like Steve Jobs and I like his vision and I'm inspired by the way that he created this whole empire, I would seek his advice, because I think that I would align whatever he was gonna say to me uh, with my vision and create something out of it. But I wouldn't go for someone that, you know, already successful but have different thoughts, different vision than I am. So I think mentor is a big word. You also have to specify who you're going to.
Yeah.
So I was studying the mentor. I couldn't also tell anyone about my business. So I think it was confidential. I'm really conservative about, you know, not just because he's successful at his field that I would just take any advice for granted.
Right.
Because I had staff that I pay them, that I feel responsible towards them. So any decision that I make will also affect their lives. So I have to really study the mentor before, you know, approaching him, and also showing him that I understand. I understand my points, and my questions are clear, because I want also his answers to be clear to me. You know, because I'm seeking him for advice. He pretty much don't have all of the time, so to see me. I had to make my questions direct. I had to study the mentor really good before approaching him.
I want to deviate for a little bit. Is your e-commerce business, I know your supply chain is coming from Australia, but are you shipping outside of Kuwait into the other GCC countries, or you're selling primarily in Kuwait?
So the import business is pretty much importing goods from Australia, finished good, which is under a category in the food and beverage called FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, and distributing it in Kuwait,
Right.
basically. Convenience stores, supermarkets, and grocery stores. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when we met, one of the conversations was, are you going to open up shops, donut shops in other countries? And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in countries who are as small as Kuwait and Macedonia, where I also do work. There is this conversation that if you're going to grow, you've got to grow fast, right? And you got to go to other countries, right? Pretty quickly. Um,
Mhm.
and some countries have done that well, but some countries have not. So for you, that's not necessary. You didn't need to do that to be successful. What do you think
Yeah.
about this notion of to make money because there are so few Kuwaitis, you've got to go out of the country? Obviously, you didn't do that.
Correct. Well, the my intention was to do that actually in the first place, because the first 3 years we were spending a lot of money in marketing and expansion in Kuwait. This expansion made me think that I don't need to expand in other countries now, because we're focused in the country. We have to have a successful business model that will be strong enough to go out there, because from the first year, you would get people approaching you and emailing you, "Hey, I want franchise from your business. Do you franchise? I want to open up." But you don't really know if this person just has the money, or has the same vision as yours or not. Because people have money. Money is not the issue. Everybody, would open up business that already is set, has the training and has the manuals and everything. But that's not the case. The case is what's next. Will
Right.
this be sustainable? Because your 7% royalty would mean a lot to me if you open up 5 or 6 other locations. So I was in a dilemma because I was so focused in expanding in Kuwait and bringing a lot of value. And I think there are different types of growth, because you don't need to have like thousands and thousands of shops operating it yourself to be successful or to grow. You could have other people who are doing it, which is the franchise model, which I really like. It all depends on the goal of the brand. Is it by value? Like, for example, Apple Pan is a burger shop in LA. It's one of the best burger shops ever. They have only one shop since 1940 something,
Wow.
and everybody is talking about their shop. Their shop wouldn't be sustainable if they have a lot of shops, maybe, because the value would go down, and you know their strategy is like this. So I think there are different strategies that you can focus on, that will bring a lot of value for the business. So
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing I noticed about you when we first met and in subsequent conversations, that you have this amazing commitment to quality. Those donuts were not like, and I love Dunkin' Donuts. These were not Dunkin' Donuts. These were not even the ones you see in Starbucks. These were really different donuts, right? And
yeah,
so as you grow the company, you got all these people, advisors, mentors, maybe customers, but hopefully customers and employees. How do you maintain that commitment to a very rich sense of design and quality that sometimes could get watered down by expanding your team and listening to everybody? Like, because you were
yeah,
really committed to that. And does that
yeah.
maintain itself as you expand to distribution,
Hmm.
and not necessarily just product development?
Hmm. Exactly. I mean, as a small company of 20 people, you would easily, I wouldn't say it's easier than a bigger company, but it's still challenging, because no matter what in the food and beverage, you will have complaint, and you will have complaints from customers. Even if you put gold, you will still have complaints. you know, it never ends like this. You have to understand who are your customers. This is number one. If you know your customers and you got complaints from not your customers, if you like, if you have this one model, this is my customer, and you got someone else who's, you know, commenting about the product quality, and you know that you don't have that issue, you wouldn't take this comment, you know, for granted and then change accordingly. You would take it, you would absorb it, you would see, okay, what you can do to please this customer, and then you would adjust accordingly. If you got the comment from your customers that you know that they're going to spread the word, you know, about something, you will try to compensate them. You will try to, you know, fix that problem. Maybe that's right. Maybe you need to change the oil of the donut. Maybe, you know, one employee had a bad day that day. So you need to focus on quality in many different aspects. You know, from the quality of the staff, what are their backgrounds, the training, the operation manual. Also, you have to, you know, offer the right environment for them.
Right.
If you have an environment where the uncertainty is so high to have a complaint, like you don't have this killer insect, for example, you don't have these, you know, the simple things to you know, sustain a higher quality business, then problems will occur.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's very it's difficult to execute, but to seek the information in today's world, how to have you know, a sustainability of food quality. You would have audits, you would have quality assurance, quality control people to check. You could certify your kitchen to be ISO, you know, certified.
But it's not just
So
about quality. It's not about safety. It's about a different kind of quality, which is more expensive to deliver, but you could charge more with better quality ultimately. Right?
I mean, exactly. First of all, when you price a product, I mean, it depends on your brand position. If you have a brand position which is luxury, just for example, you would set yourself the highest out of your you know, rivals and your competitors, and then you would put all of the reason why is it that price.
Right.
You know, you go from the end to the beginning. You know, you would set the price and then be like, why is it this? You have to justify it from the packaging, from the bag, from the customers, from your employees, how they're responding. So
Yeah.
it's all connected.
So one thing you said, which I'm going to put words in your mouth. So is your customer your mentor? Is that like your customers are actually giving you the guidance you need? I mean, it's a little different than sitting down with someone monthly, but are they the ones who are helping guide you from where you are to where you need to be?
You could say so. Customers are one of the main factors that are my mentors, because, you know, I think we live in a time where you could seek information easy. And in you know, nowadays you would make a marketing campaign and you get a reaction from customers, and these customers will stay with you for a long period of time. That means there is something, there's potential of something. And then when you have this thing, that means you have data. So you could also use data to analyze your customers, and then, you know, adjust accordingly. You know, customers love this kind of product. Let's see. Sometimes I just download the customer data that I have, and then I see someone who's ordered like 10 times for the past 30 days. And then I would just call him. I'd be like, "Hi, how are you? How's it going? You know, I checked your, you know, information, and then you've been ordering from us for the past 3 or 4 months. Wow, that's amazing. What do you think we could do to make it better?" You know, just 2, 3 minutes conversation. And then he would just spit very valuable information. And then he would just do it with multiple customers. And then this is pretty much your mentorship, just free advice.
Now, the other thing you said to me, and we don't have a lot of time, but I want to ask you, before we got on the recording, you said something like, you know, you picked up a book and you said, "This is my mentor." Like, you know, you're a great learner, right? So, you know, you go to the university, you become an engineer in the United States. but you know how to learn. And so like now, how do you use the learnings to mentor you content wise through the challenges that you have in the company? I think it's pretty interesting how you, I mean, everyone wants to learn, but there's something you mentioned spread that. That's my mentor. This is like, I need to learn about branding. I got this book. This is what I got to do. What are your thoughts about that?
See, I'm a very honest person. You don't have access to mentors all the time. You live in a day and age where everybody is busy. You know, everybody has something to do and like this. And I taught myself that I cannot say I don't know. I have to know. And that's my problem. You know, I try to be perfectionist as much as possible, but it's impossible. So before getting into a major thing in my life, especially in in business, I'll try to learn this topic. So when I seek these people, I understand what they're telling me, and specifically in branding. I would sit with designers and they will tell me all kinds of stories about how to make a successful brand that is scalable. So I say, prior to doing that and meeting those people, how about reading a book? I would consider that book a mentor of mine for this 30 days, and I take my time. So yeah, I mean, that would be my mentor for that particular, subject. So I think, you need to know these things if you're into, branding. You just can't just delegate it to, you know, there are things that you can delegate. I mean, designing the logo or rebranding it, but there are things that you feel about your brand. No one can feel it. So I think just you have to learn the theory behind it and see how it makes sense in real life, and then get creative with it. So sometimes I use articles, but mainly if I can have access to a really interesting book, I would do that.
Yeah.
I have a small library too for that.
Yeah, well, you're a great learner. That's what I've learned about you over the years. So one last question, is there something I should have asked you about mentorship or about learning or inspiration that has gotten to where you are that I did not ask you that would be helpful for our viewers to know?
What, come again?
If there's something I didn't ask you that I should have,
Sure, tell me.
thinking, is there something that is in your brain that I didn't ask you about that might be helpful
Hmm.
about mentorship or about, inspiring you?
Um, I'll try to give an advice about not being perfect. You'll never make a perfect thing. Being perfectionist, you will get into over analyzing things, and then you will take your time, and then you cannot execute. When you cannot execute, you will not determine the change. You will not know what is good, what is not. So that way you will never know if you have to seek an advice or from a mentor or not. So I think maybe the best thing that I did is that I executed without enough planning, just to discover my mistakes quick enough so I could decide on what to do on myself. So I advise you guys to plan, because failing to plan is planning to fail. So plan accordingly, but don't take your time. Someone else has more time, but he executes faster, that wants to get you out of business. So you have to understand that business is not easy, but also think that you cannot do everything. You have to delegate. You have to surround yourself with the right people.
Great. Thank you very, very much. Always very informative chatting with you. Thanks very much for giving me your time.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. Anytime, Stephen, I will be here to support.
Thanks.